Welcome to my channel to everyone who's new here, and of course to those of you who are back again, great to have you here. In this video we are going to talk about SUI, Avalanche, HBAR and Dogecoin. Things remain exciting, so make sure to watch until the end. So, it wasn't 8 minutes ago, let's refresh this page. So, I posted 1 hour ago that I closed all my short trades. Why did I do it? I will let you know in the update. So I have talked about that pretty detailed in the Bitcoin update. The Bitcoin update is 25 minutes. Yeah, there we talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Solana. Maybe you are not going to see it or don't want to see it. Then I'm going to do a quick. Let's do it real quick. So basically, what we have at the moment are bullish divergences in the RSI. We are in the 1 hour chart. On the 4 hour chart, we are, for most coins, oversold. We are forming bullish chart patterns and we are very close to our actual take profit area. So why did I take profits? Yeah, because I don't want to hunt every single last cent. I don't want to hunt every single percentage. I think we had done a great job. The market already sold off a lot in a very, very short time since our breakouts. That's why we wait for breakouts, because once breakouts happens, it's going a bit more faster than taking trades while we are within going sideways. So my gut told me to sell off my short positions, take profits for sure. Now, yeah, we are 1 hour later, we are selling off again. Not a big deal. So let's just jump to SUI. We have formed a falling wedge. And this falling wedge has to break to the upside. $3.57. What I would actually do is we have here our X short line. So we had here the rising wedge, which got a retest. Here it was already short with a stop loss over the top right here. And a position size increasement. Yeah, here, this is not a breakout. We didn't close even our candles lower than $3.56. You can see it. We don't have a candle close here. Those are just wicks. But we got here over several hours a breakout. And we got here a retest where we didn't get over $3.56 again for a couple of hours. I see 5 hours right now. So, position size increasement. Take profit was actually $3.30 to $3.24, and we have still the chance dropping to $3.08 for SUI. This is still ongoing. Just because I took profits, it doesn't mean that my scenario is not ongoing. I'm just doing it because of risk management. Yeah, I want to take my profits instead of being very excited and nervous that we can anytime get a bounce. And I see that actually. We have here a bullish divergence. We have always lower lows in the chart, and here we are forming higher lows in the RSI. The only thing which is a bit negative is if I put here a trend line, then we broke it to the downside, and now we have more downside potential. That's true. But if we look over the bigger chart, then this can also be here another bullish divergence with another low, and from here the rocket can actually start. And because it can, that's why I took out my short positions and took my profits. So what is my plan at the moment for SUI? Waiting for the $3.08. If they break to the downside, then I'm considering taking a short position again. This is going to take a few days, I think. It's not going to happen today, in my opinion, even though we are selling off a lot for the coins. It's still a far way down. And then we can see if we find some targets, because here this is going to get very interesting, $2.65 to $2.55. But I want to have more, I don't want to say evidence, but I want to see more chart patterns directing us for lower prices. I don't see it at the moment. What I see is a falling wedge. And this falling wedge is going to break out, in my opinion, once we get a breakout over our old short trend line. That's why I will make this one not red anymore. That's why I will make this one green. Here's the cross at $3.56. If that breaks to the upside, then $4.08 is going to be the target. How am I going to trade this falling wedge? If we break the falling wedge to the upside a bit later, so if we are going to break it to the upside right here, then I'm not going to jump into a long trade. I'm actually waiting for the $3.56 because horizontal resistance is much more valuable than a sharp rising falling wedge like this. This chart pattern can also not work. It can be also possible that here we go like this, then we break it here to the upside, and then we are going to sell off even more. Might be possible. But with horizontal resistance, it's much more safer in my opinion. The only thing why I have this chart pattern on the chart is because of the target. So if we break it to the upside a bit later, and we break the $3.56 to the upside, and I'm going to enter a long position, then my target is $3.91, for example, if we break it to the upside right here. That's why I want to keep that on the chart, just for an orientation. So, short lower than $3.08, long over $3.56. So what about Avalanche? Yeah, let's start with Avalanche a bit. Let's clean up the chart. So we have said here, it was when we were here, once we break with $23.88 to the upside, then we can get some upside momentum, but have to see if we are going to sell off again or if we push more to the upside. This scenario didn't even get activated. We didn't break it to the upside, so I can take this one out of the chart. So the other scenario was that we are going to sell off even more. So our first was we had here our rising wedge, which broke to the downside at $24.36. We broke it here to the downside. We got our retest for several hours of that horizontal support, broke to the downside. Now it's resistance. Anyway, we sold off. Then we have said this might be here a triangle. We broke it also to the downside. And I increased my short position a bit more, so I was a bit over leveraged for Avalanche. But the target is also here ongoing. The target, $20.40 from this triangle, is ongoing. And my overall target is going to be the $19.85. Yeah, this target is still ongoing. Why that? Because we have here our horizontal support. We have fair value gaps in that area, and we have a chart pattern, this big rising wedge in orange, which direct us into $19.85. Why did I take profits? I took that because we have here two bullish chart patterns. Yeah, maybe not two bullish chart patterns anymore because we are getting a lower low. Before, this was here, a double bottom pattern. And now what can we form is an inverted head and shoulders formatation. And we have here in bright blue a rising wedge, which can also break to the upside. What we also have is a huge bullish divergence, and we are currently on support. So let's do it more precise. So if we take a trend line like this, then we are very close to the support and we can bounce there. And what then can happen is that we get one last low and from here break over here the RSI. And that would mean this push. That's why I took profits far earlier than the price mark, which I have gave you 2 days ago, with the chance that we can still drop there, but it's for my personal risk management. So, what can we do? I would actually wait a bit. I want to see the first breakout here at $21.41. I don't want to get into a long position right there. similar to SUI, this falling wedge is going to be an orientation. My long entry is going to be the $21.85. If we break here to the upside, then I can take, depending on when we are going to break out, this target here, and then we can think about it because we have here a fair value gap between $24 to $23.60. I think this is going to get very interesting. Here's also those price marks. This is going to get very interesting for a take profit, for the first take profit, for Avalanche. But if we are now in the new cycle, like we get one last sell-off right here, and then a new cycle begins, then we have even the chance getting to $27 or even far higher prices. You can see how many fair value gaps we have. They reach even $37. They even reach up to $55. Those fair value gaps can get filled, and we have to see. Like, we sold off a lot the past days. I expect a bounce very soon. So with that said, we can go into the next coin, HBAR. So HBAR is the only coin where I would say I'm going to re-enter a short trade again. I will tell you why. First of all, we also broke here this big rising wedge to the downside, target 17.9 cents. Do I think this is realistic? Since we have coins on support, since we can expect a bounce soon, I think 17.9 cents is not realistic anymore. What I think is, that's why I've put here a red trend line on the chart. We have the first sign of a breakout, 23.1 cents. If we get for over the next hours a consolidation here, then I'm going to enter a short trade because we have such a huge fair value gap, even reaching down to 20.3 cents. And it might be possible that all the other coins are going sideways on their support. Like, for example, let's assume Avalanche. Avalanche is dropping to $19.85. This is not a long way anymore. 4 to 5%. If we drop there, then we can just get a consolidation here, while HBAR is doing this, just to fill those fair value gaps. That's why I want to enter a short trade for HBAR very soon, but I have to see that we are not pushing to the upside for a couple of hours. If we push to the upside, then we have here, which is kind of the cross, also $23 and 23.1 cents. If we break it to the upside, then we can get a bounce. This bounce can reach prices up to 25.76 with a fair value gap even to 26.1 cents. Possible. What I'm hunting is this fair value gap with a potential of 11%. So Avalanche has the potential of 5%. Solana has the potential of, I think, 1%. They can go sideways. For example, on a Sunday, they can go sideways. HBAR can still sell off. That's why HBAR is the only coin which I want to short. I'm not going to long HBAR. I don't see anything which I can trade here. We have a huge fair value gap, lower than us. We are currently lower than resistance. And yes, just because we get over this resistance doesn't mean that we are not just going to have a fake move and then get into that fair value gap. That's why I take my fingers out of long trades from HBAR. Yeah, those cryptos are all correlating to each other, but they also do their own moves depending on where fair value gaps are, where chart patterns are. Some coins are pushing more to the upside, some coins push more to the downside, some coins go a bit different. Like Bitcoin is going sideways and some coins get into their fair value gaps and from there shoot to the upside. That's why I will be a bit more careful with long positions for HBAR, and I'm looking for new short entries where I can snag this move, and then we have to see if we are going to form a bullish chart pattern for this uptrend. So, last coin, Dogecoin. Last coin for this update. Dogecoin is... oh wait, let's talk about the RSI for HBAR. I forgot that. Because HBAR is also the only coin which is not heavily oversold with its RSI. So just look into the 4-hour RSI. I will make this one big here. The RSI here is currently, it was at 30. Now everything which is lower than 30 means oversold, but also we are at an RSI of 30 right now. We are not oversold. We were oversold if we get somewhere lower than 25, then this area would also get red, like this one here. Yeah, this here is oversold. HBAR is not oversold, so we still have potential to get one new low in the RSI where we are oversold. That would be the push to 20.3 cents in my opinion. And from here, get a nice move up. Let's look for Dogecoin. Look, it's already going red here. Dogecoin oversold. Dogecoin doesn't have much potential to the downside anymore in my opinion. So, I've just showed you that HBAR has more downside potential with its RSI, while Dogecoin is already oversold and Dogecoin is very close to its support. Our target for Dogecoin, and we have to move into the 1-hour chart. Here was the slow breakout with its retest. Here we got a second retest. Target 18.77 cents. This is the target. Why that? Because we had here an head and shoulders formatation, which slowly broke to the downside, and we have support at 18.77 cents. If we lose that support, then I can consider taking a Dogecoin short trade again, because then we are going to fill those fair value gaps and we are even more bearish. That would also mean that Bitcoin should drop to round about 108,000 US dollar, 103,000 US dollar. Then Dogecoin is going to sell off. But as long as Bitcoin is not breaking to the downside, Dogecoin can just bounce within its falling wedge. So in orange here, we have a falling wedge with a bullish divergence in the chart. So we have lower lows on the chart since a longer time ago, since 3 days, and we have a falling wedge, which is a bullish chart pattern, and we are close to support and within a take profit area. So why should I keep my short trade? If we break the 18.77 cents to the downside, then I can consider taking a short trade again. Not a big deal. But what I can imagine is that we are going to sell off maybe today or a bit tomorrow, but we are going to get something like a consolidation, like an rounding bottom, where we afterwards break this falling wedge to the upside. And if we look for the target is going to be the 26 cents for Dogecoin once we break this chart pattern to the upside. Can also have here this old trend line. So the cross at 21.2 cents is going to get very interesting for me. This one right here. If we break it to the upside, then I think the chance is very high that we should see the 26 cents, but we also have fair value gaps here. So starting to take profits from 23.58 cents. Here's the target. Let's make it to 23.5 cents. Everything above 23.5 cents can get into take profit. Yeah, I always take small amounts of take profits. Why don't I take 100% at 23.5 cents? Yeah, well, we can still get up. Why don't I take 100% profits at 26 cents? Well, we can get into that area, sell off before we go into the take profit area. And if I have such a large take profit area, then I'm going to take 10% right here, 10% here, 10% here, 10% here. So always a few percentages out of the trade until we hit the 26 cents. Then I want to be out of the trade. And if we break it to the upside, then I can get into a long position again. So with that said, everything, since we are selling off, yeah, we are still selling off. it looks bullish to me and we can still expect higher prices. That's why I closed my short positions, and I'm looking for actually long positions or more breakouts to the downside with the certain levels which I have told you to enter new short trades. This is the safest opportunity in my opinion. And yeah, let's look tomorrow over the charts, and we see each other in the Render, Tau, Kaspa and ONDO update.